Hello, everyone. Well, it is October 24th, and this is not the podcast I had planned to release this week. So I put up a thing on Instagram asking, should I release the podcast about Embarrass or should I release the podcast about Idea? Now, Idea won that vote. But a couple of people who are very loyal listeners voted for Embarrass, and then I was like, you know what? I'll go with Embarrass for this week. And then I went and got COVID. And that kind of threw off any plans that I had. I went and got COVID. Isn't that a very interesting grammatical structure when you think about it? So I went... Where? Oh, I just went away. And what happened? Well, I went and got COVID, didn't I? It's actually a real common way to tell someone how something happened, you know? And we usually use it for health issues or something like that. Hey, what's wrong with Mary? Oh, well, she went and got the clap, didn't she? The clap. There's an interesting one for you to look up. Went and got is the structure. He went and got the book from the library. Absolutely fine. Ronan went and got COVID. Not fine. Mary went out and got the clap. Definitely not fine. He went out and got milk. That's all right. Just an interesting structure. Anyways, let's focus on the main idea of this podcast, shall we? So I guess in that the topic of this podcast is going to be COVID, is going to be healthcare, is going to be a lot of different ones like that. All right. So right now in BC, in British Columbia, COVID is rampant again. Hospital admissions are at an all-time high. Actually, no, not so much hospital admissions, but COVID cases are at an all-time high. However, hospital admissions are not because the majority of the population are vaccinated. So, for instance, I have COVID. I got COVID. I caught COVID. I came down with COVID in the last couple of days. I have no idea where I got it. Maybe I got it at work. I work in a college. Probably. I could have gotten it on the bus. Maybe I got it in the supermarket. I don't know. But all I know is that right now, hospital admissions in BC, they're ticking up slowly, but not as fast as they would be because the majority of the population is vaccinated. So, thankfully this time there has not been a surge in hospital admissions due to COVID-19, but there has been a surge in positive tests from around British Columbia. And that's because, most people who get COVID now are able to treat the symptoms at home and don't need further medical care, just like myself. But let's talk about illnesses in general. And I just have a list of things here. Now, I had planned, as I said, to do a longer podcast, to do the podcast on Embarrass and Idea. But look, folks, life happens. This is it. Those ideas will be there next week or the week after. And this week, I actually tried to record the Embarrass podcast because I have a lot of it written out. I have some of it recorded. And I found that I got excited doing it and then I got too tired because my energy levels are sapped right now. My energy levels are gone right now. Sapped. That's an interesting one there. My energy levels are sapped. S-A-P-P-E-D. And if your energy levels are sapped, it just means they're gradually weakened or destroyed. If you're sapped, it means there's no power or strength in you. And so right now, I will say, due to COVID-19, my energy levels are sapped. I have no energy. I am sapped. And I tried to record the podcast about Embarrass And I just found I wasn't able to do it properly. Also, I found myself like repeating stuff and not being very coherent at times, which I'm guessing, or I'll put down to as another side effect of COVID, is the brain fog, which is something that we're going to talk about now. So, I'm very lucky that COVID has not gotten me too bad. Yes, I have a fever. Yes, I had headache. I had a headache. I had body aches. The appetite wasn't there. I had a mild fever, so nothing too crazy where I would be too hot, too cold, but never shivering or nothing that warranted me to be extra careful or cautious. I took some medicine, some Advil, I think it was, or aspirin, not aspirin, but something like that to alleviate the temperature. And I know there's a lot of people out there, and I'm usually one of them who says, oh, I'll let my body do the fighting. My body is strong and everything. And then I was just thinking about it. I wear shoes every day. What's the difference between shoes and medicine? Sure, I could just go barefoot every day and eventually my feet would be strong enough, but right now I am not ready to walk barefoot around the place because my feet will bleed and they'll be hurt. So why the heck wouldn't I be ready to take some medicine to help reduce a headache or to help reduce a high temperature, for example? I hope that logic makes sense. But let's just imagine that you're talking to your friend and they're asking like, oh, how's COVID? And so there's a lot of different ways that we can talk about it. And right now I'm going to just list out a couple of ways that you can say that you're not feeling very healthy, or a couple of ways to describe symptoms of an illness. So one of the most common examples is to be under the weather. And it's an idiom. So it's like, I am under the weather, he is or she is under the weather. And that just means you're a little bit sick. Another one is, I'm not feeling too hot today. Yeah, if you're not feeling too hot, you're not feeling too good, you're not feeling too sexy, you need to figure something out and go home probably. I feel like shit. Pretty self-explanatory. I feel like I fell out of a 2-story window. Can you imagine if you fell out of a 2-story building? That would hurt when you hit the ground. Can you imagine how you'd feel for the next couple of days? You'd be stiff as heck. So I feel like I fell out of a 2-story window. I feel like a car hit me. So I feel like shit, I feel like I fell out of a 2-story window, and I feel like a car hit me. 3 great phrases with I feel like. The next one is, I am bedridden. R-I-D-D-E-N. Wow, you can even hear my voice. I'm bedridden. If you're bedridden, folks, you cannot leave bed. You're forced to stay in bed. You are unable to leave bed. Have you ever been so sick that you were bedridden? Do you know anyone that was bedridden? I was bedridden once in my life, or twice actually, when I was in hospital. It's not fun. You literally cannot leave the bed at all. So people might come in to wash you, help you go to the toilet, clean out your bowl or whatever it may be. It's your bedpan, not bowl. Yeah, it's a rough one if you are bedridden. Now, I was bedridden this weekend in a way. Like, put it like this, on Friday and Saturday, I was definitely more bedridden because I was just bloody exhausted. Today it's Monday, so I'm feeling a little bit stronger. I'm not so bedridden, but I am isolating, so there's that. Often people talk about having an appetite or not having an appetite if they're sick. So I have no appetite or I have a huge appetite. If you're sick, generally speaking, you have no appetite or you have a little appetite. Funny thing about that, because my parents were here recently, which I'm going to talk about another time when I don't have COVID, and we're talking about appetites, and how they're finding it can be difficult to eat more food. But as you get older, it's important to eat food because you need to be healthy and you need to gain weight instead of losing weight rapidly and stuff like that. And one interesting thing that I pointed out on how to get an appetite in Canada is to take legal weed. To eat a weed cookie or to eat a weed candy or something like that. Not a super strong one, not one that gets you high, but one that gives you a bit of an appetite, makes you a little bit hungry. So if you don't have an appetite, Dr. Ronan says, go get some dope. One of the other symptoms for when you're not feeling very well would be foggy brained. Foggy, Foggy, brained, Brained. And if you're foggy brained, well, just think about it. Fog being that sort of cloud that comes in the morning and you cannot see a lot. On a cold morning, it's very foggy. Brain being that computer in your head. So if you combine the two of those, it's basically just saying that in your head, it's just full of fog and your brain isn't working accordingly because your brain can't function properly in the fog. And if you're foggy brained, it's horrible. It's kind of like you might walk into a room and then forget why you went there. You're trying to have a conversation with someone, but you can't. It's kind of like I tried to record the Embarrass podcast and I couldn't. I was too foggy brained. I kept losing my train of thought. I kept wondering, what the heck am I talking about? And is this even worth it? So go back, listen to those for talking about different stages of an illness, from being under the weather to being bedridden and everything in between those. So some good ones there to talk about how sick you are. Now, thankfully, like I said, today is the October 24th, and I've had COVID for a couple of days. But right now, I'd say I'm on the rebound. And that's positive, because that means I'm on the mend. That means I'm coming back to myself. I'm getting back to myself. So to be on the rebound, to be on the mend, to be getting better, or to start feeling like yourself again, there are some great ways to talk about the process of getting healthy after being sick. When you're sick, you realize you take everything for granted with healthcare. And now that I'm on the mend, now that I'm almost up and about, now that I'm at about like 80 or 70% better, I'm really starting to think about next week and what I want to do. And I've been indoors all weekend, and if you listen to this podcast, you know I'm not an indoors person. You know I'm all about the great outdoors. So I'm very excited to get out and about once I'm feeling better. But right now, I'm on the mend. I'm on the rebound. I'm up and about, but I'm still feeling a little bit weak. Now, I think I'll be good at the end of this week. Did you hear that? I think I'll be good at the end of this week. So let's imagine you're talking to some colleagues at work and they're like, "Hey, Ronan, how's it going? How are you doing?" I'd be like, "Oh, lads, I'm not too bad. I'm on the mend right now. I'm starting to feel a bit like myself again. I think I'm about 80% there and I should be good by the end of the week." A couple of different sentences to describe your current healthcare state. You could also say you're over the hump, I'm over the worst of it, or I'm on the tail end of. So I'll just read those again. I'm over the hump, I'm over the worst of it, or I'm on the tail end of. I'm on the tail end of COVID. I'm on the tail end of the flu. I'm on the tail end of this bug or whatever it has that got me. I'm over the hump. The hump being the worst part of it. The hump is where you're like at the top level of sickness, and now that you're over the hump, you're starting to get better, you're starting to be on the mend, you're starting to be on the rebound. I really enjoyed the one. I really liked the one where I said I'm starting to feel more like myself. I think that's a good one. And there'll be times when you're sick and you just don't feel ready. You just don't feel like you can do anything. And then a few days goes past and you start to get the urges to do stuff that you used to do before you got sick. So it's kind of like right now I don't feel like myself because I don't feel like doing this podcast. I don't feel like making materials. I don't feel like teaching this week. I don't feel like bloody talking to people or anything like that. I have to, so I will, but I don't feel like it. But I know by Wednesday or Thursday I probably will feel more like myself, where I will go back to the classroom face to face. I will really enjoy it. And I know as soon as I start teaching my classes, I will enjoy them. But I don't feel like going for a swim right now. I don't feel like going for a hike yet. But I'm hoping this weekend I do. And when I start feeling like I want to swim, like I want to go for a hike, I'll just say, I'm starting to feel more like myself. So, I gave you a load of phrases for being sick. And I gave you a load of phrases for getting healthy. Now, I'm not going to cover too much more in this podcast because, as you can probably hear, my voice doesn't sound so well, and I'm actually getting fairly tired already. That's crazy. It's only been like a 19-minute podcast, but I'm bloody tired. Hi, it's frustrating, to say the least, because the mind is willing, but the body is not. That's the thing. The mind wants to do stuff, but the body just says, Ronan, sit the fuck down and do nothing. Listen to your body, folks. Right, the last one is if somebody comes back to the office after they've been out for a while, here's some things that you can say. Now, I'm not going to teach them. I'm just going to read them because I'm bloody tired. We'll talk about them another time, maybe. But first and foremost, you could just say, hey, it wasn't the same without you. That's a nice one. And it's kind of like, dude, we missed you. Something was different without you. Good to see you again. Simple as. You're passing the corridor. You see someone. Hey, John, good to see you again. The place fell apart without you. You could just say to a person, well, I'm glad you are up and about again. And if you want to ask them some questions, how are you feeling? Are you still feeling the effects of blah, 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 blah? And if you need to talk to them about something, hey, Ronan, I'm glad to see you're up and about again. Let me know when you have a minute to catch up on last week. Something like that. But yes, folks, my name is Ronan. I have COVID-19. I am lying on a bed right now in my office. That's another thing I didn't tell you. I tested positive. My wife tested negative. She's flying to New York in like a week. So that's shit. Because she's going to be gone for 2 fucking months. So she's going to New York and then to Dublin. And she's going to her friend's wedding in Ireland. And then at Christmas, I'm going to Ireland. And then we're going to meet our families and all that stuff, which I can't wait for. But there's obviously no point in her going from Kelowna to Dublin, Dublin to Kelowna, Kelowna, Dublin again in December. So she's just going to go out there and wait and hang out for 2 months. And then I'll hang out in Canada for 2 months and then join her. But it's just very annoying because here I am isolating the week before she leaves. And I can't even see her. So that's a bit frustrating. I'm just amazed at how she tested negative because, we were obviously around each other quite a bit when I was contagious. But whatever it is, she tested negative. I tested positive. I'm isolating. I'm fading. I'm running out of energy. My energy is being sapped right now. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. A shorter podcast than usual. I hope you are happy and you are healthy, and stay tuned for a longer podcast very soon. Bye. Oh, one thing I forgot to say. Go to buymeacoffee.com/Little Seal. I got really cool group classes starting in November and lots of other fun stuff. So check it out. Check it out on social media. That's it. I'm off. Good night. Goodbye. Love you all.